She said it like she wanted me to break. "Wedding's off," Daphne snapped, slamming her hand down on the table, scattering place cards and a ribbon sample across the floor like confetti at a funeral. Her voice didn't tremble. Her eyes dared me to fall apart. I didn't say a word. Not because I was calm, but because my tongue felt nailed to the roof of my mouth. The air between us had changed. Not heated, not tense, just hollow. Like something had already left the room long before her words landed. She waited for me to beg. That's the part that still messes with my head. She actually waited. She watched me with those tilted eyes, hands on hips, chest heaving like she was victorious. I just stood, grabbed my keys, and walked out the front door. No bag, no jacket, just walked. I drove around until I realized I didn't need to circle the block again. I parked behind a gas station, leaned my head back, and laughed so hard I thought my ribs would crack. I wasn't happy. I wasn't free. I was furious. But the laugh came anyway, because in that moment, something shattered, and it wasn't me. By sunrise, I had already contacted my lawyer. By noon, I had full access to the account I secretly opened 6 weeks ago, the one where I'd been moving funds little by little while pretending to forget how banking apps worked. And by the time she called me 47 hours and 18 minutes after her grand announcement, I was sitting in a quiet diner 2 towns over, sipping coffee and watching her name flash across the screen like an emergency alert. I let it ring. Twice. Then I answered. Her voice was different. Smaller. "Hey, can we talk?" I stirred my coffee slowly. I thought the wedding was off. She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for days. "It was. I mean, it is. But can we just talk?" "No," I said, sipping. "But you can listen." And that's when I told her. I told her I knew about Victor. I told her I knew about the fake business trip, the cash withdrawals, the hotel suite she thought she was so clever hiding by using her work card. I told her I'd already sent the photos, yes, the ones I had enhanced, to her parents, and to her boss, and to the wedding planner who kept calling me sweetheart while sneaking champagne with Daphne behind my back. She said nothing for a while. Then she cried. Of course she did. That's what happens when the spotlight turns. But I wasn't finished, because I also told her something else, something she didn't expect. "I'm not mad," I said. "I'm embarrassed. That I thought you were a real person." Then I hung up. And her world? It started crumbling exactly 1 minute later. After I ended the call, I turned off my phone and slid it across the table. I didn't need to hear the follow-up voicemails. I already knew the tone, disbelief, desperation, fake innocence wrapped in breathy whimpers. Daphne was never a good actress when the spotlight wasn't hers. I stared out the diner window at the wet sidewalk, watching raindrops slide across the glass like the hours that had passed since I walked away from the life I almost signed into forever. The waitress refilled my coffee. I nodded silently. She didn't ask questions. I think she saw something in my eyes, something tired, cracked. The kind of expression you only wear after giving someone every version of yourself, only to realize they wanted none of it. What Daphne didn't know was that her little weddings off performance wasn't a spark, it was ash. It didn't light a fire under me. It confirmed one I'd been smothering for months. You see, she thought she was in control. She thought calling it off would make me scramble, panic, apologize for things I hadn't done, and come crawling back like a good little backup plan. But I wasn't a plan anymore. I was the final chapter she never read. Weeks earlier, something shifted in me. I can't even tell you exactly when. Maybe it was when I found the necklace in her glove compartment, not the one I gave her, but the one still in the gift box, with a tiny note inside that read, "From V." Or maybe it was when she stopped touching me. You notice these things. It's not just about sex, it's about presence. The way someone reaches for you in silence, or doesn't. I hired someone, too. Yeah, I know how that sounds. But I needed the truth without the drama. No confrontations. No shouting matches. Just clarity. I needed to know whether I was paranoid or being made into a joke. What came back hit harder than I expected. Photos. Hotel check-ins. 2 overnight stays when she told me she was at a team-building retreat. 1 kiss in a parking garage that looked like it had history. Not just a fling. There was routine in their body language. Familiarity. That's when it clicked. I wasn't the one. I was the decoy. The convenient mask while she played pretend. And her sudden outburst about canceling the wedding? That wasn't emotion. That was strategy. She wanted to pull the pin before I did, so she could spin the narrative. Too late. While she was out living her secret life, I was preparing my exit. Quietly. Carefully. I moved my savings. I changed my passwords. I scheduled a meeting with the venue and, without a word to her, converted the $7,800 deposit into a private contract for a local youth shelter's summer event. Tax deductible. Felt poetic. I didn't need to destroy her. I just needed to let the truth breathe. That evening, after our call, I turned my phone back on and found 12 messages waiting. Her voice sounded more strained with each one. The last one was almost unintelligible, like she was pacing or crying or both. But the next day? That's when things got interesting. Apparently, Victor's wife found out. And she wasn't the quiet, let's talk about it type. She went nuclear. I only heard the details through a mutual acquaintance, a florist who hated both of them but loved gossip. She said Daphne showed up to the office that morning to find her access revoked. The company car repossessed. Her emails locked. Her promotion retracted. Victor didn't even show up to work that day. Word was he fled to his brother's cabin in Vermont to avoid the fallout. And as for Daphne, she finally understood what it felt like to lose something real. I hadn't lifted a finger to hurt her. All I did was walk away. But sometimes, walking away is what flips the whole damn world over. 3 days after I disappeared from her life, I walked into a storage unit I'd secretly rented months before. Inside, on a concrete floor under harsh fluorescent lighting, sat the curated remnants of the life we were supposed to build together. Wedding gifts from people we barely talked to. Her childhood keepsakes that she refused to store at her parents' house. My favorite armchair she claimed was too grandpa-ish for the living room. And in the corner, resting on a plastic bin filled with white candles she never lit, was the guest book for a wedding that would never happen. Still shrink-wrapped. Untouched. Just like the truth had been until now. I ran my hand over the fabric cover and stared at the label. Our forever starts here. It felt like a bad joke. Back when we first got engaged, I used to fantasize about our future. Not in grand ways. Not about yachts or exotic vacations. Just small moments. Sunday mornings with mismatched mugs. Her in that oversized sweatshirt she always stole from me. A dog we'd argue over naming. I didn't care what it looked like. I just wanted real. But that's the thing about betrayal, it makes even the quiet dreams feel stupid in hindsight. I loaded the bin into my car, not to return it to her, but to deliver it to her mother's porch with a note that read, "Might be more useful to you than me." No signature. No explanation. Just closure in a box. That same afternoon, I finally unblocked her number and allowed her final voicemail to play. I'd been avoiding it, not because I was scared of what she might say, but because I didn't want to hear the voice I once trusted twist itself into knots trying to crawl backward through the mess she made. But I listened. And it was worse than I expected. "Curtis, please. I don't know what you think you saw. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. He was a mistake. Just a mistake. You're the one I want." I panicked. I said things I didn't mean. "Please, don't do this. We can fix it." It was strange how familiar her words sounded. As if she'd said them before, not to me, but to others. Maybe even to him. Like apologies were a script she rehearsed until they became part of her voice. But I wasn't interested in fixing something that had been hollowed out long before it cracked. What she didn't know was that while she was crying into my voicemail, I was sitting across from a financial advisor. The same one who'd helped me finalize my exit strategy. Because Daphne and I had tied ourselves together in more ways than just emotionally, we were business partners in a small side venture she loved to boast about at brunch, a boutique candle brand. "It's our little passion project," she used to say. Correction, it was. Until she neglected to read the fine print I rewrote 2 months ago. As of last week, she no longer had access to the brand's funds, distribution rights, or customer list. She still had the Instagram password, sure. But all her flashy posts now pointed to a brand that legally didn't belong to her anymore. That brand was now under a holding name, Quiet Flame LLC. Mine. She hadn't even noticed the switch. She was too busy hiding hotel receipts. By the time she reached out to demand a real conversation, she had no idea what I'd already taken from her. Not out of revenge. Not out of spite. Out of survival. You don't rebuild yourself while living in the ruins. You walk out. You take what you can salvage. And you let the rest collapse. And collapse it did. Because that very night, something happened that not even I had planned. Something that made me question if she'd ever really known me at all. That night, after finishing dinner alone in a booth where the waiter kept giving me that pitying look reserved for people who wear their heartbreak like a badge, I drove to her house. Not to see her. Not to talk. Just to make one final delivery. I left the box on her porch. A plain black storage bin. Nothing fancy. No bow. No dramatic flair. But inside, that was a different story. She had already lost the wedding, lost the job, lost the man she threw it all away for. But she still clung to the illusion of control. Still texting, still calling, still acting like this was just a rough patch, and I'd eventually come home. So I gave her a mirror. Inside the box was a collection of truths. A printed transcript of every text between her and Victor over the past 3 months. Screenshots of her fake calendar invites. A flash drive with hotel security footage I had legally obtained through a friend in private security. And on top of it all, a copy of her own vows, the one she never actually finished writing, but had left open on her laptop the day she went to yoga. She wrote, "I never believed in perfect, but Curtis made it feel possible." That line stuck with me. Not because it was beautiful, but because I knew she didn't mean it. It was filler. Something pretty for the guests to swoon over. Something she could say with just enough tear in her voice to sound sincere while already planning her next escape route. I included a note. Just a few words, scribbled in ballpoint pen on a sticky note. "You were rehearsing love. I was living it." Then I drove away. By the time she found the box, it was already too late. I'd made sure of that. The Candle brand's website had been taken offline for restructuring. Her shared credit card access had been revoked. I'd pulled out every dollar I had invested in the honeymoon she was still trying to postpone and redirected it into a trust. One she couldn't touch. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted peace. I wanted to wake up and not feel like I was rebuilding a house in the middle of an earthquake. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. 43 missed calls. 12 texts in a row, each one a roller coaster of emotion, confusion, anger, denial, pleading. The last message just read, "Why are you doing this to me?" And that's when it hit me. She still didn't get it. She thought this was punishment. Like I was retaliating. Lashing out. She didn't understand that I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was just finished letting her hurt me. Later that day, I got a call from someone unexpected. Her father. We had never been close. He always saw me as safe. Not good enough for his daughter, but not bad enough to object to. A beige man. Harmless. But that call was different. He was quiet at first. Then he said, "I don't know what she did, and it's not my place to ask, but I read what you left. I read every word." I braced myself. Then he said, "You were too good to her." That broke me more than anything Daphne ever said. Because it confirmed what I'd been afraid to admit, that everyone around us had seen the cracks. That maybe I wasn't crazy or overly sensitive or insecure. Maybe I was just alone in a relationship that had only looked whole from a distance. But there was one final thread I hadn't pulled yet. One last truth I hadn't faced. Because deep in my gut, I still didn't know one thing. Had she ever truly loved me? Not performed love. Not worn it like a dress she'd throw in the closet when it didn't fit. But loved me, really. And the answer was waiting in an unexpected place. In a voicemail I didn't notice until later that night. One that wasn't from her. One that would finally unravel the last illusion I was holding on to. I nearly deleted the voicemail. It came in while I was restocking the back room at my shop, old clock parts, new gears, specialty oils. I was elbow deep in a grandfather clock's housing when my phone buzzed, face down on the workbench. I didn't think much of it. Just another unknown caller, and I'd been getting a lot of those lately. Reporters looking for a scandal. Her friends demanding my side. Even Victor's brother called once, threatening to sue for defamation, as if his siblings' affair was a misunderstanding I'd fabricated with Photoshop. But that voicemail? That one stopped everything. When I finally played it later that night, I was half asleep, curled on the couch with a heating pad under my back and a mug of cold tea untouched beside me. It started with silence, then a cough, and then a soft voice I didn't recognize. "Hi. I don't know if I should be doing this, but I thought you should know." Her voice cracked halfway through the sentence. "I work front desk at Parkstone Suites. I know I'm not supposed to say anything, but you were here once with her. Months ago. You were kind. You tipped me. And I remember thinking you seemed like someone who didn't talk much but noticed everything." She paused. I sat straight up. She was talking about Daphne. She came here a lot. Not just with that guy. With others. I mean, not a parade of them. But more than one. Different names. Sometimes she'd book under yours. Or corporate. But I always remembered her. I don't know why. I guess because she acted like nothing mattered. My stomach twisted. She said some things once when she was drunk. She told one of the bellboys that you were her safety net. That you were too soft to ever leave her. That even if you found out, you'd forgive her because Curtis would rather be lonely than be the bad guy. I closed my eyes and bit the inside of my cheek. Hard. The voice continued. I'm not telling you this for drama. I'm telling you because I saw you. You deserve to know. We all did. I'm sorry. Click. That was it. No name. No return number. Just that. I stared at my phone like it had just told me the world was ending. I wanted to scream, to throw it across the room, but the emotion wouldn't come. I was tired of reacting. Tired of defending myself against ghosts. Because that's all she was now. A shadow of a person I thought I knew. I thought I'd reached the end of her secrets. That I had already opened every locked drawer, read every lie. But this was a new level. Not just betrayal, but design. She hadn't tripped into an affair. She had crafted it, layered it, rehearsed it. I wasn't a mistake she regretted. I was a structure she leaned on when everything else failed. A financial cushion. A backup husband. Her plan B. And I hated that I still cared. That part made me feel the weakest. Even after everything, I still had moments, flashes, where I imagined her walking through the door and saying my name like it still meant something. Like I was more than a placeholder in her show. But the worst part? I still didn't have proof of the thing that haunted me the most. That maybe, just maybe, I'd never actually known who she was at all. So I did something I never planned to do. I went back to the house. Not to see her, but to take something I'd left behind. Something that might finally end the questions I couldn't stop asking. Because if I was going to bury the version of her I once loved, I needed to see her with my own eyes one last time. And what I found wasn't closure. It was something far more disturbing. I told myself I was going back for one reason. There was a small leather journal, something I gave her on our second anniversary. She used to write in it late at night, curled on the edge of the bed with a blanket around her shoulders and her hair in a messy twist. I never asked to read it. I figured it was hers, private. Some part of me hoped she was writing down little things about us. Funny moments. Fears. Dreams. A place to put everything she didn't say out loud. I hadn't seen it in months. But I remembered exactly where she used to keep it. Bottom drawer of the hallway console, under a pile of restaurant menus and unused birthday cards. That drawer was the only thing I wanted from the house. Not the furniture, not the photos, not the keepsakes of a future that no longer existed. Just that journal. So I went. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon. I knew she wouldn't be there, her car wasn't in the driveway, and the house looked still. I had kept a spare key hidden under the porch light for emergencies. I didn't know if she'd found and removed it by now, but when I reached up and felt the cold metal tucked behind the light casing, something inside me cracked open. The key was still there. I slipped inside like a ghost. The house smelled different. Artificial. Heavy perfume mixed with the chemical tang of cleaner, like someone trying too hard to erase whatever had happened there before. I stood in the entryway, staring at the walls that used to hold framed photos of us. Now, they were empty. Bare nails sticking out like broken teeth. I walked straight to the drawer. The journal wasn't there. Not under the menus. Not behind the envelopes. Not anywhere in the console. I searched calmly at first, then less calmly. I moved to the nightstand, then the bedroom closet. I checked beneath the bed, in the laundry hamper, under the bathroom sink. Still nothing. I was about to give up when I remembered the attic. We barely used it, too hot, no insulation, only a pull-down ladder and a single weak bulb. But she had this habit of hiding things in odd places when she didn't want me to find them. Once, she hid my birthday gift up there for 3 months because she thought I'd snoop. I climbed up, expecting cobwebs and old winter coats. What I didn't expect, what I will never forget, was the cardboard box. It was duct taped sloppily, as if closed in a hurry. Marked with a single word in Sharpie, junk. Inside were items I hadn't seen in over a year. An old phone. Her previous phone. One she claimed to have lost during a business trip. 2 envelopes filled with printed photos. Some of us, some I didn't recognize. And beneath them, pages from the journal. Torn out. Not the full thing. Just select entries. At first, I hesitated. It felt invasive even then. But curiosity beat shame. The entries were dated. They started 2 months after our engagement. I don't know why I said yes. It felt easier than explaining no. I read it 3 times before moving to the next one. He's so predictable. I could lie straight to his face, and he'd thank me for being honest. My hands trembled. I wasn't sure whether it was rage or heartbreak anymore. Probably both. Vic said he's waiting for the wedding to blow over. He's not wrong. Curtis isn't going anywhere. He needs me more than I need him. It was all there. Proof that I hadn't just been betrayed, I had been a placeholder. A warm, quiet shadow she could stand in while chasing chaos in the dark. But there was one more entry that stopped me cold. It was short, scrawled sloppily. Not dated. If he ever finds out, he'll fall apart. I just hope he does it quietly. That line echoed in my chest like a threat. She hadn't just assumed I'd forgive her. She counted on me being too weak to retaliate, too quiet to disrupt her image. She was building an escape plan around my silence. She believed I'd break, but do it out of sight, like a good little ghost. And maybe she was right for a while, but not anymore. I gathered the pages, the old phone, the box, and locked the attic behind me. I didn't know what I'd do with him yet, but I knew this. She didn't deserve to write the final chapter, and I wasn't going to stay silent much longer. Because the next time she saw me, I wouldn't be holding flowers or keys. I'd be holding every lie she ever told, stacked, labeled, and ready. I didn't plan on showing anyone the contents of that box. Not at first. After I left the house with the attic discovery clutched tightly in my back seat, I drove aimlessly for hours. I didn't eat, didn't drink. I don't even remember stopping for gas, though I must have. I ended up parked in an empty lot outside a library, staring at the glowing screen of her old phone like it held a map to where everything fell apart. It took me almost 30 minutes to figure out her passcode. She never changed it. 4 digits. The last 4 of our anniversary. I should have felt something when it unlocked. Triumph, maybe. Relief. But all I felt was dread. Like I had opened a vault with no oxygen. The text messages were there, thousands of them. Conversations with Victor. With her sister. With someone labeled Lydia, stylist, that was clearly not about fashion. At first, I only skimmed. But one thread stood out. A group chat, ironically titled Freebirds. 3 participants. Daphne, her best friend Carmen, and another woman I didn't recognize. The thread was vile. Gleeful. Unfiltered. Daphne bragging about how she kept Curtis just sweet enough to pay the deposits, while spending weekends with Victor. Carmen laughing about how boring guys are useful for wedding planning. But what hit me the hardest was this line, buried in a paragraph of emojis and sarcasm. Curtis is wallpaper. He doesn't ruin the room, but no one notices him unless he peels. I shut the phone. Sat there for a long time, forehead pressed to the steering wheel. I could have broken down. I probably should have, but I didn't. Because somewhere inside all that humiliation, a tiny, sharper feeling started to bloom. Clarity. I didn't want revenge. I wanted the performance to stop. I wanted her to be seen clearly, maybe for the first time in her life. Not as the charismatic whirlwind. Not the victim. Not the bride who got cold feet. I wanted people to see her the way I finally did. So I made a decision. I printed screenshots. Dozens. I pulled quotes from her journal entries. Cropped them clean. Annotated them carefully. I scanned the hotel footage frames. The receipts. The text logs. I assembled it all like a portfolio, a mirror she couldn't look away from. But I didn't send it to her. I sent it to everyone else. Her parents. Her employer. Her favorite podcast host, whom she had been begging for an interview slot for months. And then, against every ounce of my normal, quiet, people-pleasing instinct, I sent it to the wedding Facebook group. The one she made. The one where she posted weekly countdowns, motivational love quotes, and curated photos of us in golden hour filters with captions like "True love is chaos with calm at its center." I didn't post rage. I didn't name call. I didn't rant. I posted a single message. Hello. This is Curtis. The wedding is canceled, and I won't be answering questions. I've attached some context. Read it or don't. But please stop asking me if I'm okay. I'm not, but I will be. Then I logged off. I didn't check for reactions. I didn't read the comments. I knew there would be hundreds. It wasn't about them. It was about the silence I'd been swallowing for too long finally echoing back loud enough for her to hear. She called me within the hour. I didn't answer. She texted 38 times. Switched to email. Left voicemails. Her tone spun out in every direction. Begging, threatening, bargaining, nostalgic. I ignored all of it. But then Carmen messaged me. That caught me off guard. It was short. Cold. Almost surgical. You have no idea what you just did. Daphne's not the only one who's going to burn. She was right. Because by morning, someone had leaked the screenshots to a local gossip page that specialized in wedding industry drama. And suddenly, it wasn't just personal anymore. Daphne had built her social identity around being a relationship influencer, whatever that even meant. She gave advice, hosted workshops, posted reels about nurturing communication. She just signed a deal with a small bridal magazine to write a monthly column. That deal? Gone within hours. Her website? Swarmed. The comments section became a battlefield. And me? I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt empty. Not because I regretted it, but because even after exposing every lie, I still hadn't found what I was truly looking for. Something real. Something true. And then, right as I began to convince myself that closure was a myth, my phone buzzed. It was a number I hadn't saved. No name. No context. Just a message. I know who she really was. And I think it's time you knew too. Who is this? No answer. For hours. I almost convinced myself it was spam or someone trying to stir the ashes of what was already burned down. But just as I started to forget about it, another message arrived, this one with an attachment. A photo. Daphne, 5 years ago. Different haircut. Younger. She was standing beside a man I didn't recognize in front of a nonprofit banner. The caption read, Volunteer Spotlight, Daphne Elwood and Brandon Hayes, Shelter Mentorship Program. Another message followed. Before the Instagram life. Before the games. She used to be someone who gave everything. Life changed her. But she changed herself, too. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't know what to say. The more I stared at that photo, the more I realized how little I really knew her. The woman I was engaged to wasn't just a villain or manipulator. She was a person who had once been full of potential and chose a different path. That didn't make her actions excusable, but it did make them human. And strangely, that was the peace I'd been searching for. Not revenge. Not pity. Understanding. The next day, I did something unexpected. I went for a walk. Not a long one. Just a few blocks from my apartment. I passed a flower shop, a record store, an elderly man playing chess against himself on a folding table. For the first time in months, the world didn't feel like it was pressing down on me. I ended up in a little cafe I'd never noticed before. It was quiet. Dim. The kind of place where nobody asks if you're okay unless you want them to. I ordered tea. Sat near the back. Let the silence wrap around me like a blanket I'd forgotten I owned. A few minutes later, someone asked if they could share the table. Place was full now. I hadn't noticed. I looked up and saw a woman around my age. Big glasses. Denim jacket. Nervous smile. Sure, I said. Go ahead. She sat. Didn't talk much. Just drank her coffee and read a book. Every now and then, she'd glance out the window and smile at the sky for no reason. Her peace was contagious. Before she left, she looked at me and said, You look like someone who's learning to breathe again. I blinked. I think I am. She smiled, tucked her book under her arm, and walked out. No name. No number. Just a moment. A brief, beautiful reminder that life doesn't end with heartbreak. Sometimes it begins there. That night, I packed the final box from my apartment. Not out of sadness, but readiness. I'd found a new place, out near the coast. Smaller, older, but quiet. Honest. And as I closed the lid on that last box, I found one final note Daphne had once written to me when I had saved without knowing why. You always notice the things nobody else does. That's your superpower. She was right. And maybe, finally, I'd started using it for myself. No dramatic endings. No thunderclaps. Just a man walking forward. Lighter. Quieter. But whole.